God isn't like you. I once read an article from a man who said he didn't believe in God. He said his reason for not believing in God was the fact that God does things that he himself, the writer, would never do. For instance, the writer said he would never ever send even his worst enemy to hell for all of eternity. And yet the Bible says God does send people to hell. According to the writer, God can't be real because God is so different from the writer himself. This is how many of us think about God. We don't like the idea of a God who would do things differently than the way we would do them. Another way of saying that is God can only be God if he does the things I would choose to do. If God is real, he would think and act a lot like me. There's a major problem with a God like that. If God was just like you, if he acted like you, if he thought like you, well, then he wouldn't be God. He would just be another more powerful version of you with all of your imperfections, baggage, pettiness, and anger. The Bible says we are made in God's image. That means every person that you see reflects God. The Bible says God is unique from humans in his limitlessness. 1 Kings chapter 8 says, "Behold, the heavens and the highest heavens cannot contain you. How much less this house I have built for you." The universe in all of its vastness and its size cannot contain or house God. God is limitless. God is different from you. And that might cause you some fear because, first of all, he's mysterious, and second of all, you can't control him. This should cause you some fear because that means you and God have different standards of life. And you could choose to live by his standard, or you can live by your own. Imagine that you are a king. You have some loyal subjects, but you also have many subjects who don't like you. Actually, they're living in rebellion. They want to replace you as a king and put their own king above them other than you. You might think to yourself, well, maybe I can win over these rebellious people with kindness and love. But eventually, the rebellious people, if they keep persisting in trying to kill you and destroy you, maybe even terrorize your loyal subjects, what would you do as a king? Well, eventually, you would muster up your army and you would crush the rebellious people. God is different from you, and that's a good thing. Why? Because the God of the Bible is that king. And everyone who has broken God's law or has sinned has lived in active rebellion against God. But God is different from us. So as the king, God chooses not to crush those who are in rebellion against him, which would be his right to do, but rather he sends his son Jesus Christ on a mission of self-sacrificial love to save the very individuals who are living in rebellion against God. The Bible says there is no one who is perfect, not even one, and the payment for our imperfection is death. But the good news is that God, the King, demonstrates his love for us, and that while we were still in rebellion, he sends his son Jesus Christ to die on our behalf. God sends Jesus on a rescue mission to save the very people who are rebelling against him. Yes, God is not like you, and that's for your own good, because God has more patience, more love, and kindness for you than you could ever possibly give to another human being. Isn't that the kind of God you can trust?